Dan Mandis here, along with Joan Jones. Sam Rutherford is here as well, producing. Joan, I'm sure you and I have not spoken about it. I want to do this like 3 minutes.
Okay.
The CEO and the HR executive.
Yeah.
Do you know what's so funny? Had they just played it cool,
right,
and not like ducked for cover, nobody would have been the wiser.
Yeah.
Nobody would have been the wiser. But there they are, and the singer for Coldplay didn't do them any favors by tweeting it out either.
And he even said, "Oh, these guys are either having an affair or something." Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he just whatever. And what's interesting though is, I don't know, if you're both having an affair, why would you be like out at a concert? I mean, usually they don't. I don't know. It just seems kind of silly to me to be,
very public facing,
being all lovey-dovey at a Coldplay concert and these are two fairly, well-known people in the sense that they are well-known in their industries.
Yes.
And there they were, loving, touching, squeezing at a Coldplay concert. Things were getting hot at the Coldplay concert.
What I really loved was the memes afterwards.
Oh, my gosh.
So the Philly Fanatic, have you seen that one?
No.
The two of my favorites are the Philly Fanatic, and there's a female Philly Fanatic too. That's his wife, and they put that on. That was pretty funny. Also, the Savannah Bananas did one.
Did they really?
Oh yeah, and they're just great.
Well, if you have some social media, Joan, maybe put them up.
Maybe I should put them up. All right. So I'm Joan P. Jones on Twitter.
So dude lost his job.
Yeah, he did. Well, he had to resign. And so did she.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you're the CEO and the HR person,
of all people,
the
HR
worse than that.
Of all the people you don't want to have an affair with in the office, it is the HR person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Man alive. So anyway, that's I was watching that, and it's like, had you just had the clarity of mind to just play it cool,
right? But
it's just like, the diving out of the out of the video was so funny. All right, thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
6:09, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Accusations that Barack Obama set up Donald Trump for failure, or at least tried to, after the election of 2016. Big news has happened Friday after we got off the air. But here's the thing. Need some audio, Sam. So after we got off the air on Friday, one of the things that we talked about, and one of the things that everybody was talking about, was this story about how in 2016, Obama personally tried to figure out a way to derail Donald Trump's presidency. Now, we've been talking about this for a long time. Conservatives have been talking about this for a long time. Didn't necessarily have proof. I think there's plenty of evidence, but whatever. Not going to argue about that now. But Tulsi Gabbard now says that she has the receipts. And this is one of the reasons why the Democrats and Republicans didn't want Tulsi Gabbard in the DNI position, because they didn't want her going around and sticking her nose in the business of the intelligence agencies back during the Obama years, because they know that, some of this stuff, it just never goes away. And so now, apparently, she has found and she has declassified the receipts where she says Donald Trump was targeted by Barack Obama. Listen.
The implications of this are, frankly, nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected.
Yeah, they're looking at all the old documents and so forth, and she does say that, it's the usual suspects. You've got, of course, Obama. You've got John Brennan, James Comey, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton. You got Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. All those people that we've long suspected of trying to set up Donald Trump should now be arrested. That's what Tulsi Gabbard says. They need to be arrested for what they did. This is from The Guardian. the post-election intelligence estimates contrasted with findings reached before the election, which indicated that Russia probably was not trying to interfere. So remember, when they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win, no, Russia's not trying to interfere. And even if they did want to interfere, they don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the ability. And then after Donald Trump wins, what do they do? What did they do? They said, oh, yeah, Russia interfered. As a matter of fact, they did everything to try and set Donald Trump up for failure by basically setting him up and saying, oh, yeah, Russia was trying to not only interfere, but they did interfere. They colluded with Donald Trump.
As the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president, commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do.
Yep.
So creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to, quote unquote, hack the United States election for the presidency of the United States.
Exactly. And that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to derail that Trump train in the first election. So you had the intelligence community, Obama's, that said that there was not an effort to interfere. Then Trump wins, and suddenly they have the Steele dossier that they said was proof, or at least suggested collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. Now, there's this thing in D.C. It is called an intelligence community assessment. And basically what it is it is a report by the intelligence community. Now, back in 2016, they said that there was a high confidence that there was collusion, but it was not based on any collected intelligence. It was based partly on this concocted Steele dossier. The dossier that was brought to the Obama administration and the FBI and the CIA by the Hillary Clinton campaign. All this ringing a bell? Remember when we all spoke about this? For years we spoke about this. And there were some CIA analysts at the time who said there's absolutely no way that Steele dossier concocted by Hillary should have been included in the intelligence community assessment. But it was. Even though even people included in the dossier were like, oh, there's no way what I said in that bar when we were all drinking and having a good time and joking about Donald Trump, there's no way that it should have been included in an official intelligence community assessment.
So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
I mean, honestly, that's what it was. It was a coup. And she says that Obama is the mastermind. Got a little bit more from Tulsi Gabbard straight ahead. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN.
And we are looking this morning at some delays if you're traveling on 24. Looks like in the Antioch area this morning, there is something happening on the roadway near Antioch. Careful in that area. Also, Franklin, it's construction work on Lewisburg Pike, both directions at Mack Hatcher Boulevard. And you'll probably run into some delays in that area as well. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. As far as your weather today, man, oh man, it is going to be hot. Dangerous heat with the feels like temperature up over 105. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So The Trump administration, Tulsi Gabbard, looking for some Obama-sized handcuffs, saying that the former president should be indicted. He should be charged because they essentially tried to frame Donald Trump in colluding with the Russians. And the whole point was that they wanted to wrap Donald Trump in all of the special counsel investigations, accusing him of colluding with Russia. And as you know, friends, that is exactly what happened. Now, Democrats are out there saying, no, Donald Trump, he's off base on this one. Obama was not behind the Russia collusion allegations. They also will point out to you that multiple investigations have shown the Russians did interfere and they were trying to help Donald Trump. So what I don't understand is they had the intelligence assessments before the election that said that Russia was not trying, nor did they have the ability to interfere or influence our elections. Well, then here we are many years later, and there's other intelligence that says that they did interfere and that they were trying to help Donald Trump. So which one is it? Which one is it? And by the way, there's a big difference, and I pointed this out at the time. This doesn't mean that Donald Trump was trying to work with Russia in that endeavor, just that they were trying. As a matter of fact, if you remember, friends, Russia approached the campaign of Donald Trump, and they had some sort of an olive branch outreach kind of a thing. And the Trump campaign said, we don't need your help. We don't want your help. We can win this thing fair and square. So in this discussion with Maria Bartiromo, she says that Tulsi Gabbard says that there was an intelligence assessment made for Obama, his daily briefing, that was actually pulled because of some, I'm air quoting here, because of some new information. And that new information was the dirty dossier. Listen.
In early December, the first week of December, again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bringing together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President Trump.
When you think about it, and some of you folks on the super text line, you're right there with me. Over and over again, Hillary Clinton, even today, Hillary Clinton will say that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. She was the one behind the whole damn thing. She and Obama. And so when you talk about who's going to pay for this, who's going to be held accountable, well, I share with you, friends, a lot of skepticism. I don't believe that Obama nor Hillary will be taken away in handcuffs. I just don't, sadly. However, I think that, a public undressing of, well, not Hillary, but you know what I'm talking about, is holding them accountable without actually arresting them. Again, as much as I would love to say that they should be arrested, especially Obama, I don't believe that they will be. However, pointing it out and letting the American people know what the Democrats are capable of and have been doing, I think is incredibly important. A lot of people cynical, sitting here talking about whether or not Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, all of these folks, will they ultimately face any kind of indictment, any kind of consequences for what they did? Sadly, I don't believe that they will. I'm as cynical as a lot of you folks are. But if you're following along, and if you're just joining us, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, is asserting that before the election and during the election of 2016, no indication Russia was trying to influence the election. After Donald Trump wins, a plan is set to play to hijack and kneecap Donald Trump's presidency. So Obama tells his intelligence agencies basically come up with a plan to prove that Russia and Donald Trump colluded. Enter the dirty dossier. It is then leaked to BuzzFeed. They print it, and that triggers the Mueller investigation.
But there's no question that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So yes, next week we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it.
Oh, and let me tell you something. She's not done, not by a long shot. She had 100 documents that she is now unclassified. She is saying there is a lot more, as a matter of fact. And we can also look forward to some whistleblowers. So this is going to make, the former Obama officials and the former president himself, going to make them feel a little uncomfortable. It seems like everything we're doing is going backwards. We're looking backwards, whether it is the situation with Epstein, whether it is the situation with Russiagate, Russia collusion, all those kinds of things. Tulsi Gabbard at DNI coming out and saying that Obama was behind the whole thing. And she says, I've been playing you audio from this outstanding interview with Maria Bartiromo over the weekend where Tulsi says, you know what? There's a lot more to come.
We have whistleblowers, actually, Maria, coming forward now after we release these documents because there are people who were around, who were working within the intelligence community at this time who were so disgusted by what happened. We're starting to see some of them come out of the woodwork here because they, too, like you and I and the American people, want to see justice delivered. So we're going to provide everything that we have, everything that we will continue to gather to the Department of Justice for that direct intent and that direct purpose.
Well, that is Tulsi Gabbard. She has her goals. Matthew Hurtt is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline, our grassroots political analyst. Matthew, thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. So what do you think? Last time we spoke, this was not in the news. And so Tulsi Gabbard coming out and saying that the whole Russia collusion thing all came from the direction of Barack Obama.
Well, Dan, this is shocking, but not entirely surprising. The release that DNI Gabbard put forward last Friday shows a pretty interesting timeline. So prior to the election, there was the intelligence community released a report saying Russia was probably not trying to influence the election. And then from December 7th of 2016 to January 6th of 2017, under the direction of then President Barack Obama, these moves were made in the intelligence community to change the narrative using discredited sources like the Steele dossier. What you may not remember, Dan, and what your listeners may not remember is the Steele dossier, the raw intelligence collected for the Steele dossier was collected by a gentleman by the name of Igor Danchenko, who was an FBI informant who worked at left-wing think tanks in the D.C. area. It's somebody who I have come across in public interactions, and he was acquitted or found not guilty just a couple of years ago of lying to federal informants. So this is a tangled web of D.C. drama, and it all looks like it's going back to President Barack Obama in those key 4 or 5 weeks between the 2016 election and when Donald Trump was sworn in January of 2017.
You know, it's interesting because I think a lot of people are cynical about all of this. The Steele dossier, of course, also coming from the Clinton campaign. And even people that were mentioned or even quoted in the Steele dossier had come out. If I remember at the time, they said, I can't believe that they put our quote or our information in the Steele dossier because it was just a bunch of guys, you know, kind of like drunken bar talk kind of a thing. And so,
well, Dan, as somebody who has had drunken bar talk with the gentleman who collected the raw intelligence for the Steele dossier, I can, with a high degree of certainty, share with your audience, probably exclusively, that a lot of the stuff that was produced in that document was, in fact, drunken bar talk, having a couple of beers at an Irish bar and sharing stories and embellishing, and then it being funneled into what the Clinton campaign ultimately used.
Yeah, and okay, so you hung out with this Igor guy?
Yeah,
Igor Danchenko?
You know, I moved from Tennessee to the D.C. area in 2009, and Igor was one of the first people I met in the D.C. area at a reception at the Embassy Suites, a hotel near Embassy Row, and came to believe over the years that he was in fact collecting information about political actors in D.C.
Wow, that's interesting. That is really interesting. So as we move forward, one of the things that I mentioned coming back from the break or going into the break, whatever it was, is that like everything in the news is looking backwards. And so I want to get to looking forwards here in a second. But do you believe that anything is going to come of what DNI Tulsi Gabbard is ultimately looking for, which is indictments and prosecutions, Obama, being led away in handcuffs and all of these things? I'm just a little cynical because a lot of these investigations ultimately, they don't really lead to very much.
That's a great question, Dan. I think that when you get to somebody at the level of the president, current President Donald Trump, or past presidents, there's a broad level of immunity or deference that the courts tend to bestow upon these individuals. Something as benign as Joe Biden couldn't stand trial because he's a doddering grandfatherly figure. Yep. To the other broad immunity that presidents and executives have. I'm sort of in the same boat you are with that.
All right, let me ask then Epstein. Let's now go to Epstein. Talk about this note that the Wall Street Journal is reporting on, this third-person fake conversation between Trump and Epstein that was on the piece of paper, and the drawing. Supposedly there's a drawing of a naked woman, and Donald Trump did it, and you got the signature of Donald Trump, and it's right where, the pubic hair would be. It is what it is. I've got to say it because it's news. But you've got people that have traditionally not been supporters of Donald Trump, but know Donald Trump. Elon Musk is one, of course. Michael Smerconish is another. Even Michael Cohen, right, who hates Donald Trump, has come out and said, yeah, this isn't Donald Trump, man. It's just not.
What we have seen over the last 25 years or so across stories, this where information has been released, primary or secondary sources, and we find out that those sources have been forged or fakes. This is rather interesting, though, to have such a broad spectrum of folks from Michael Smerconish and Michael Cohen and Elon Musk and others to say this just doesn't sound like Donald Trump. So I'm skeptical of this. I think if something like this were to be in existence and be legitimate, we probably would have seen it earlier. And so again, I'm a little skeptical about this bit of information that's come forward through the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump is right. I mean, when he comes out and he says, I'm going to sue them, or you, talking to the Wall Street Journal, I'm going to sue you if you publish this. And the thing, and I mentioned this earlier, you're talking about a binder full of messages from, really rich people, including, by the way, Bill Clinton. And they don't even have the actual document. That is stunning to me that they would print this. If I'm the journalist, I'm not printing that story because I don't have the original document. It's all based on hearsay.
Well, and what comes out when you actually file a lawsuit like this in the process of discovery is not only primary sources, if they exist, but also any additional information that attorneys ask for. So then you start to broaden, the Donald Trump suit may broaden what it asks for, and many of these things would then make it into the court system, which would then be discoverable by the general public. So there's a lot of things that could make the news. If President Trump moves forward and this moves into the court system. What usually happens when people, especially high power people, threaten to sue is their targets tend to back off. I think this is likely headed toward discrediting, and again, very skeptical of what they decided to do here.
Matthew Hurtt, over the weekend, Daily Mail came out with a poll. I'll spare you all the details. Our time is limited. Daily Mail coming out with a poll saying that Donald Trump is still really, really supported by the Republicans, by men, and by independents, faltering a little bit with women. CNN has a poll today. I don't even know what the heck it is, but CNN's got a poll that says that, Donald Trump's popularity is sinking. We've seen other polls as well. I mean, and all of this, of course, based on Epstein. Who's right?
I think, again, as I've said on this show a dozen times or more, one poll is a snapshot and multiple polls tell a story. I do think the Epstein narrative has probably eaten into Republican support a little bit. It's probably not significant, but it may be a little bit. But again, we are... it is almost the end of July. We're 15 months out before people start cluing in on the next election. And so this is going to be just one or several polling points that tell a story. And if we come out on the other side of this, or if President Trump comes out on the other side of this, through the revelations through Tulsi Gabbard and economic success that we're seeing, policy success that we're seeing, then these polls are just a blip in history and won't matter that much.
Yeah, you know what, and I to be honest with you, I don't necessarily even like talking about the polls because of exactly that reason. I know you and I have spoken about it before, where one poll is going to be saying that he's up and another polls are going to be saying that he is down. Let's move on. I thought it was interesting. There was a story in the New York Times, and the Democrats are doing this autopsy on the 2024 presidential election. And what struck me was the fact that they're not going to delve into a couple of different aspects of the 2024 election. One, they're not going to discuss Joe Biden's disastrous decision for the Democrats to stay in the race as long as he did. They're also not going to look into whether or not Kamala Harris was even running a good campaign. Instead, they're going to focus on the super PACs and their spending and their messaging. They're completely ignoring Kamala Harris and whether or not she was the right person for the job, whether or not the Democrat Party actually made the right decision in not even having any kind of primaries at all, and her own messaging, or even did she run a good campaign? Why would they not focus on Kamala Harris? I've got an idea, and I'm going to run it past you. I'm going to say, Matthew Hurtt, that the Democrats don't want to look at that because it would force them then to talk about the shortcomings of Kamala Harris as a candidate when they might actually be running her in 2028.
Oh, Dan, I think that is a reasonable expectation. But the question is, if they're holding this autopsy, who the heck is the coroner? Rolling Stone had a really good piece over the weekend. The headline was "Nothing to see here. Democrats are preparing a deliberately incomplete 2024 election autopsy." And if you don't look at President Biden at the time, his mental capacity, if you don't look at the process by which the Democrats selected their nominee, if you don't look at Kamala Harris's campaign and the way she disconnected with communities in Philadelphia and in Michigan and other places, then you aren't going to paint a complete picture, and you're not going to be able to move forward honestly, understanding the shortcomings of the last campaign. So it is absolutely a waste of millions of dollars, which I'm perfectly fine with. The Democrats wasting millions of dollars putting together a completely incomplete autopsy. But they're not going to learn what they should learn, and they won't be able to implement those strategies in 2026, 2028, and beyond.
I think part of it, too, is that they don't want to look at their party and how, in my opinion, it is rampant with anti-Semitism, because you've got to talk about whether or not Kamala was the right candidate. Would Josh Shapiro have been better at the top of the ticket? Certainly, he would have been better than Tim Walz as a VP candidate, but that would mean they would have to acknowledge their anti-Semitism because Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania governor, is Jewish.
Well, that, and it would completely debunk and destroy DEI. We conservatives often throw around DEI hire as a pejorative, but it was very clear from the selection of Kamala Harris in the 2020 campaign to her ascension or selection as nominee in 2024 that she was a DEI selection. Joe Biden made that clear when he announced who he would be selecting, and this would completely destroy and dismantle the Democrats' allegiance to DEI as a policy at the national level.
All right, 6:52, and Matthew, how can people find you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter or X at Matthew Hurtt, MatthewHurtt.